Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm actually in the sewing room. I am in the middle of a sewing project. I'm currently working on True Bias mini Southport dress for my niece. My plans are to make about 3 or 4 of these dresses for her to wear throughout the summer. And the upper portion of the dress is a button up. And I need 4 buttons to finish that part. Well, I thought that I had the buttons that I needed in my stash. I do have the buttons in the correct size, but they are not the correct color. So what I have decided to do is make the buttons. I have button molds that I purchased from Michael's several years ago, and I have made buttons in the past, but I always used regular resin. So this time I'm going to try to make it using UV resin. I believe that it's going to come out the exact same. The only difference with me using the UV resin is that it's going to dry quicker because I'm putting it under the UV lamp. So with me placing it under the UV lamp, it should be dry within the next 5 to 10 minutes. And that means that I can go ahead and get my project completed today. I want to show you what that process looks like so that if you are in a similar situation, you can also make buttons when you need them instead of trying to run to the store and hoping that you can find something that matches, because we all know how hard that is when you're sewing a garment. For this project, you will need a button mold, UV resin, alcohol ink in your preferred color, as well as a UV lamp. I also recommend, although it's not required, that you buy something to protect the surface that you're working on, such as a silicone mat. As you can see, I have spilled resin all over this mat, and sometimes it peels off, but even if it doesn't, I would rather it be on this mat than on my table. One downside to using the button molds from Michaels is that while these all look to be the same size, they are not the same style. So these two actually have like a little indent in the button, and this is just like it's going to create a flat button, which is why I have like 3 of these molds so that if I needed to create a set, I did not have to create a set scattered throughout the day. I can create it all at one time. Another thing that I like to do is I like to put the alcohol ink into a container, and then I use a popsicle stick to add that dye or that ink to the mold, because if you just drop it directly into the mold, I found that too much ink gets into there and then the UV resin will not dry. Most of the directions tell you to wear some type of protection on your hand. Is it necessary when you're doing UV resin? No, but do I do it anyway? Absolutely. did after that second unsuccessful attempt was I decided to flip the mold over so that the UV could hit on the other side, and that seems to have done the trick for getting this to dry all the way through. So if you find that your buttons are not, or they're still sticky when you pull them out of the mold, you probably just need to flip it over to the other side so that the UV light can hit the underside of the button mold. Like I said, they typically just peel right off. And you definitely will need to experiment with your resin to see how long it takes. And then also it depends on the UV lamp that you're using. But this took, I did two 90-second rounds with this, one with the button mold facing up and then one with the button mold facing down. And I'm getting ready to do the same for this other set. Find that you have little pieces of resin on the edge, you could just take a file and file that off. And that should smooth that out. All right, so here is the bodice for the upper portion of this dress. I have not completed it just yet. I still need to stitch down the armhole, but I did go ahead and do the buttonholes using the button that I did have that was the correct size. And here's how it will look on the top once I stitch it on there. And I'm very happy with this color. I thought blue would look good on here, and I was correct. But again, if you are looking to create your own buttons, this is a good way to do that. I've done it several times in the past, and I always am happy with my results. It will, or it may take you a couple of trial and errors to get it correctly, but I feel like that it's worth it in the long run, especially when you're trying to go ahead and get a project complete. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments.